Hello there, FFTCG community. I'm Judge Jared, and you're watching episode 19 of Rules Roundup, the series where I go over questions that were asked this week in the unofficial global FFTCG Discord server. And I go over the answers to those questions as well as what the rules are behind those to give you kind of an in-depth explanation as to why the answer is what it is. And it gives you kind of two opportunities. One is to test your own rules knowledge to see how many of these questions you knew the answers to. And if you do know the answers to them, then the other opportunity is to see how good you are, how you would be in explaining these answers to other people. So you get to kind of see how I explain it and maybe compare that against the way that you would do it. Not to say that I'm doing it the right way, but I got my way of doing it, and maybe you have your own way of doing it, but you can kind of compare notes, I guess, if you already know the answers to these questions. So yeah, we're going to have 10 questions again this week, like I've been doing lately, so that we get a nice clean out of 10 here. If you're scoring yourself at home, giving yourself a little pop quiz on these. And yeah, you can see at the end, you know, if you got an A, a B, a C, if you need improvement, all that fun stuff. Before we get to the questions, though, this is... I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks, I guess, but it's an exciting time right now in FFTCG. We just last weekend had the, in North America, the Materia Cup in Portland, which I was very lucky to be a part of. I was part of the judge staff for that, and it's always exciting, this Portland Materia Cup, because they definitely relish their spot every year as being the literal and figurative Wild West, because it was the first week that we had both the new changes in effect for the banned and restricted lists, as well as Opus 26 being legal, right? So it's always fun to see kind of what people come up with in that first weekend of legality and what gets thrown out there. And if you see things pop up that maybe you weren't expecting yet, you know, some things maybe you did expect, but it's cool to see kind of what people come up with and what rises to the top or doesn't, as the case may be. But yeah, so I got to be part of the judge staff there, and I really enjoyed my weekend. Portland is always special for me because I'm in the Seattle area, so it's great to have my friends from the Seattle area be able to come down there and compete. We have our neighbors to the south there that are in Portland, and it's always good to see them again after we've been spending the last several weeks seeing them at local qualifiers in the Pacific Northwest. Nice to have the Idaho crew come out as well, who I don't get to see as often, but nice to see those people as well. And then the other people who are near and dear to my heart, the Californians, my friends from a little further south there in California. It's always great to see them come up for the weekend. And then in addition to all of us West Coasters, also fantastic to see people from Texas come out. You guys are everywhere, so it's always great to see you. Since you get that nice positioning in Texas, right, where like everything is kind of equidistant, or at least within a decent enough distance. And then we had players from Florida and the East Coast and the Midwest and everything. So for everybody who came out this last weekend, if I saw you and spoke to you, then yeah, it was great seeing you. If I didn't get to speak to you, I'm sorry, I didn't get to speak to you. It's just too many people for me to spend time with, unfortunately. But it's, you know, it's a good problem to have, I guess. But it was great seeing everybody. Couple quick shout outs here. Shout out to Epic Gaming and Brian, who's in charge of the event every year and always does an awesome job of running things. It was smooth all the way across the board. The employees are just great at running things and keeping the machine going. We did not have any repairs or anything, and no major troubles, especially on day one. Day one was super smooth, and yeah, it went well. And yeah, so shout out to the whole Epic Gaming crew for just great support throughout the weekend. Shout outs to my fellow judges, my brothers in judicial arms that weekend, Nolan, who's our head judge, as well as Alex and Jason. They all rocked it. It's, you know, fantastic to have that level of kind of judge support at an event. Having 4 judges at a Materia Cup is something I have not experienced before, so that was really nice and relieving to not be stretched as thin as I'm used to. And yeah, so it was great. The judge team was awesome this weekend. Huge congratulations to Ryan Chen for winning his second Materia Cup of the season. He was not content with one large Titus trophy. No. You need to have two. So he put on a master class there, and I know when the videos get up, the VODs, people will enjoy seeing some of those matches of his. And then a huge congratulations to Ian Knoll, who not only finally got their Nats invite over the weekend after just grinding away at all kinds of LQs and events this season, but also came away with at the end of the weekend with their first ever Worlds invite. So yeah, huge congrats to Ian for joining the Worlds team this year. And I know that the Portland crew is excited to have somebody from down there representing Portland in Worlds. So yeah, congrats to both Ryan and Ian on their placements there. And I think I should leave it at that because I've been yapping for a while and I haven't gotten any questions yet. And you're here for questions. I'm here for questions. We're all here for questions. So let's do questions. Question number 1. All right, this one, all fairness, this one actually is not from the global Discord server. This one somebody tagged me directly on Discord. So I have one that snuck in here. The other 9 are from the Discord. This one, though, says, does Citra work if you choose 4 wind and 1 ice wind? Short little question, but let's go into why it's not a short little answer. So Citra's effect. Citra, she has her second auto ability, says when Citra enters the field, choose 5 cards in your break zone. Remove them from the game. If the cards removed by this effect are of the same element, search for 1 summon of cost 3 or less and remove it from the game. Then cast it without paying the cost. All right. Now Melvin, we don't have to really care about what he does. I put him here because he's an Ice Wind card, and the question at hand said, what if we have an Ice Wind card? So just there for kind of demonstration purposes. So Citra's effect, the easy version of it is if you had just 5 wind cards, you play Citra, you choose 5 wind cards, you remove them from the game, and then you search for something, a summon of cost 3 or less from your deck, you remove it from the game, then you cast it without paying the cost. Straightforward, I think, right there. But the question is, what happens if we choose 4 wind cards and an ice wind card? And basically this comes down to, like, because it's an ice wind card, does it count as being not an ice card, or does it count as being a wind card, even though it's got 2 elements? This is kind of getting into the rules of how multi-element cards work. And the takeaway you want to have with multi-element cards is that multi-element cards are fully all of the elements that they are. So even though, like, on the screen here, you look at Melvin and it's like, well, he's got the ice on the left, he's got the wind on the right, he's kind of a little half and half. His element crystal has got the 2 different colors. Like, yeah, does he count as full? And no, he counts as full. He is full of, like, he is entirely an ice card. He is entirely a wind card, which can be a benefit or a detriment depending on the effect that we're looking at. For example, if there was a card that said it had an effect and you needed to choose something other than wind, it would not be able to choose Melvin because he's not something other than wind. He is still fully a wind card. It doesn't matter that he's also ice, he's still a wind card. But in this case with Citra, it's a benefit because what it's looking at is if all of the cards removed by her effect are of the same element. And so it's going to look and it's going to see that they do all share the same element, which is wind. Doesn't matter that he's also ice. He is wind, fully wind. And so for that reason, yeah, you can go ahead and choose him as well as 4 other wind cards. You're still going to get the effect for Citra and do the whole thing there. So yeah, just remember that with multi-element cards, they are entirely both elements. You can imagine him as both if he was just fully wind, and then imagine him as fully ice, and we've just overlaid those on top of each other, and we get all of the pluses and minuses of that situation there. So hopefully that clears that up. All right, next question. Hello guys, I have a stupid question. I find it dumb, but I have to ask it. If I have Cid Randell and Charlotte on the field, if my opponent plays a forward, did he come and play Dull Frozen, or due to the presence of Cid Randell, it didn't happen? I know it's cliche, but there's no such thing as a dumb question or a stupid question, right? If you're asking the question, chances are somebody else has asked the question at some point. And if they haven't, they probably will. So it's, I don't really filter out the questions that get asked because I think there's value in all of them. So a little side point there. But let's get to the actual question at hand, which is what happens if we have Charlotte and Cid Randell at the same time and the opponent plays a forward. So Cid Randell has this notorious no fun ability that says a field ability that says opposing forwards entering the field will not trigger any auto abilities, and then in parentheses, this applies to their own abilities and abilities triggered by your opponent's forward entering their field. I'm going to read that one more time. Opposing forwards entering the field will not trigger any auto abilities. This applies to their own abilities and abilities triggered by your opponent's forward entering their field. So that means something like Lastwell being played, his own auto ability is not going to trigger. And then on the flip side, if Lastwell was already out and like a different knight got played, then if Cid Randell's on the other side, Lastwell's not going to trigger due to another knight entering the field. Now Charlotte, she has an auto ability that says when a character enters your opponent's field, dull it and freeze it. So the question here is what happens when we have these both out? And the answer is bad news if you were hoping to have the power couple of Cid Randell and Charlotte at the same time. Because Charlotte's auto ability that says when a character enters your opponent's field, dull it and freeze it, if they played a forward, that's an auto ability that's triggering due to a forward entering your opponent's field, which is exactly the thing that Cid Randell prevents. So I know it's a meme and all, but Cid Randell and Charlotte at the same time is like the definition of the congratulations, you played yourself, because Cid Randell will shut down Charlotte's auto ability, at least for forwards. It's worth kind of pointing out that her auto ability does trigger for when a character enters your opponent's field. So if they played a backup, Cid Randell doesn't stop that. He only stops auto abilities that trigger due to a forward entering the field on your opponent's side. So yeah, if you're making a mono ice deck or any ice deck, I would not recommend Cid Randell and Charlotte at the same time. Which means you probably don't want to put them in the deck together. But at the very least, if you do put them in the deck together, don't put them out at the same time. You're just nerfing your own Charlotte, and that's no good. So, yep, that's the answer there. Sorry. Next question. This one's not about any specific cards. So it says, first, when declaring an attack, unless a forward has Brave, it's put from active to dull when it declares an attack. Second, once a forward has declared an attack, preventing it from attacking via abilities or summons does not stop the current attack it's making. But if he kills me with Amaterasu Ifrit summon 1 CP, there's a lot of time I tried to attack and he didn't get the damage because he killed my forward. By my count, there's like 3 different questions in here, despite the fact that we don't have any question marks. So this is just kind of broadly questions about attacking in the attack phase. And if I'm parsing correctly what's written here, the first is kind of just clarification on the process of declaring an attack. The second one is about how effects work that prevent a forward from attacking. And the third one has to do with resolving damage and how that works if a forward leaves the field. So I'll just kind of give a little brief overview of those 3 different topics here, and I think that should cover what the overall questions, question mark, because there's no question marks here, what those are. So yeah, when declaring attack, you just announce you're attacking with it, and then after you've declared the attack, then yes, if it doesn't have Brave, you're going to move the forward from active to being dull. If it does have Brave, it just stays active. And that's the process for declaring an attack. The second part here is there are many effects that when they resolve, they say this forward cannot attack or block until the end of the turn, or maybe just they can't attack until the end of the turn. And those type of effects, no matter what type they are in terms of like if it's an auto ability or it's a field ability or something, really what they're doing is they're preventing that forward from declaring an attack. It's not actually preventing them from being an attacker or attacking, but it's preventing them from declaring an attack, which does mean that if you use that type of effect on a forward after it's already declared an attack and is in the middle of attacking, it's still going to keep attacking because all you've done is stop the beginning of the process, declaring the attack, but we're past that point in the process. Now, that being said, if it was something like Gilgamesh FFBE that can declare multiple attacks, then sure, if you can make it so he can't attack after he's attacked the first time, then yeah, you've prevented him from declaring further attacks. But those effects do not stop an attack in progress. You're not going to be able to do that on a forward that's attacking and then suddenly it rethinks its life choices. And it's like, oh, you know what? I'm a pacifist for this turn. Not how it works. Once it's declaring the attack, it's in rage mode, it's attacking, and we're not going to stop that with an effect that says it can't attack. And then, yeah, the last part here about damage resolution. The important thing is, so we have our 4 steps of the attack phase. We have attack preparation, and then there's priority after that. We have attack declaration, priority after that. Block declaration, priority after that. Damage resolution, priority after that. So attack preparation, attack declaration, block declaration, damage resolution. And basically, you know, after attack declaration is when you have a forward declaring attack, and now they're attacking, and they will be attacking through the block declaration step, but they don't deal any damage until we finally hit that last step, which is damage resolution. So if they don't survive or stay on the field long enough to hit that damage resolution step, they're not going to deal damage. So the last part of this where it says, oh, he kills me with Amaterasu or the 1 CP Ifrit because I tried to attack and I didn't get the damage in because he killed my forward. And yeah, that's how it works. You know, if there's something that removes the forward or, yeah, basically if it makes it leave the field for any reason after it declares the attack, if it left the field before damage resolution, then we get to damage resolution. If we get to damage resolution, then we just do shrug emoji. There's nobody there to deal damage, or at least that forward isn't there to deal damage. And yeah, it doesn't happen. So it needs to stay on the field in order to get a chance to deal its damage. So that's our little overview of attack phase stuff. Next question. If I choose not to target something with Lulu, does it go on the stack still? This is another one where it's a deceptively short question, but it's actually kind of an importantly nuanced situation. So Lulu's auto ability, her second one, says when you cast a summon, choose up to 1 forward opponent controls. Its power becomes 5,000 until the end of the turn. This effect will trigger only during your turn. The important part here is just that first sentence. When you cast a summon, choose up to 1 forward opponent controls. Up to being the important one. Because the vast majority of effects don't say up to. They give you a specific number. It's usually 1, right? They'll say choose 1 forward, or choose 1 forward opponent controls, choose 1 forward you control, something like that. But we do have some effects that say choose up to a certain number. It could be choose up to 2, choose up to 4, whatever. This one is choose up to 1. So the question is, Lulu's in play. Person who controls Lulu casts a summon. Lulu's auto ability triggers, and we know that the process is after it triggers, as soon as the active player gains priority, that auto ability that triggered gets put on the stack. But here's the thing. So it gets put on the stack, and now in this case, the opponent is going, haha, this is my chance. I am sick of your Lulu shenanigans. I'm going to cast Amaterasu, cancel the shenanigans, and get rid of Lulu's whole Lulu business. So the person who's asking this, they're saying, well, wait, what happens if when I go to put this on the stack, if I just choose 0 forwards? If I choose 0 forwards, do they get to Amaterasu it? Because remember, Amaterasu doesn't choose the forward, it chooses the auto ability, which means that when you cast Amaterasu, you need to have a legal target for it, and the legal target is an auto ability that's on the stack. So, are they able to Amaterasu when you choose 0 forwards? The answer here is no, you're not able to. You're not able to because the process is, and this is explained in the comprehensive rules, that if you are putting an auto ability on the stack and there's no valid targets for it, then it immediately removes itself from the stack before any players can take any actions. So it just basically It does, in my mind, it's the Grandpa Simpson meme of where he like walks in the door and puts his hat up and then kind of spins around and then goes and grabs his hat and then immediately walks back out again. It's basically that. And there's two situations where this happens. One is this one, where it's a choose up to and you chose 0. The other one is if there's just literally no legal target, no valid target, right? So if you cast a summon and there was no forward that opponent controlled, then it would do the same thing. It would trigger, it would try to be put on the stack, and it would go, yo, you don't have any valid targets. And then it would bugger off. But in this case, even though we have a valid target, because the controller is choosing 0, it just removes itself from the stack. So it's a little cheeky way to protect your Lulu if you know your opponent has an Amaterasu. Now, strategically, depending on the situation, you're also now making it so that you're not getting the effect. So if you are trying to force the Amaterasu, maybe you do choose something still. Or if you don't know if they have it, maybe you take the chance. But if you know they have it for sure, and you're like pretty confident they're going to Amaterasu her, and you want her to stick around, then you could intentionally choose 0 forwards, and then it's going to remove itself. Now, the other point to bring up here is that even though it's going to remove itself, it still has triggered for purposes of like things that count when auto abilities trigger, like Suzuhisa, right? Its trigger event is when an opponent's auto ability triggers. So Lulu will still trigger here, or if you have auto abilities that choose up to, but they only trigger once per turn. If you choose 0, that's fine, but now it's not going to trigger again that turn because it already triggered once. And so just be aware of those things. But yeah, that's how it works. Is it actually removes itself, you cannot respond to it. I think the person originally asked this pointed out that they've had like judges tell them before that you can still Amaterasu something that either had no valid targets or that they chose 0. But yeah, it's not the case. You if there was 0 targets chosen or 0 targets available, then it's gone before you can Amaterasu. Oh, look, it's lightning. We never see questions about lightning. Question here is, how am I able to deal 3 damage turn 1 with lightning and Serah, please? And it says a party attack is considered 1 attack and as such still only deals 1 damage to a player. So that quote there is the person quoting why they're confused, essentially, because that quote is from, I don't think it's actually from the comprehensive rules. I want to say it's from an article that Yo Caesar wrote about attacking, or maybe it was the graphic that they wrote. I can't remember. But yeah, that's what the confusion is like, how am I dealing 3 damage if it says that a party attack is considered 1 attack and deals 1 damage? Well, to answer that, the first part is that lightning has that field ability, the first thing right beneath her haste, that says if lightning forming a party deals damage to your opponent, the damage becomes 2 instead. So we have a replacement effect. So if she's partying and deals damage, then that replacement effect takes what would have been 1 damage from a party attack and it just bumps up to 2. Bumps it up to 2. And so that makes it 2 damage. And then Serah has the action ability that says if you control 3 or more category 13 forwards, Serah deals your opponent 1 point of damage. You can only use this ability during your turn and only once per turn. So the way that you deal 3 damage turn 1 with Lightning and Serah is by getting Lightning, Serah, and another 13 forward out on turn 1. The kind of popularly discussed way of doing that is turn 1, you play Fang. Fang searches for a Lassie. You can either search for Lightning or Serah if you have the other one in your hand. So now you have Fang in play, and then you go ahead and you cast Lightning. And then Lightning has the auto ability during the attack phase. It says when Lightning attacks, you may play 1 category 13 forward of cost 6 or less from your hand onto the field dull, forming a party with Lightning and attacking. It says you can play a forward of any element, and then it says at the end of the turn, return to its opponent's hand, or to its owner's hand, sorry. Return it to its owner's hand. So the way this works is you have that Fang, you played it, you searched for Lightning or Serah, and then you played Lightning, you move to the attack phase, you attack with Lightning, and then Lightning's effect goes off, you play Serah off of it. Lightning and Serah deal their damage, and it gets turned into 2 because of Lightning's field ability, and then you use Serah's action ability because we control Fang, so we have 3 13 forwards, and the action ability deals a point of damage. And voila, you have 3 damage on turn 1. So yeah, that's how you get there. It's Fang's a good example because she helps you get the missing piece. So if you had Fang plus Serah or Fang plus Lightning, you can get to all 3 pieces there on turn 1 if that's your jam. All right, more Lightning questions. We just talked about her. If Lightning makes an attack by herself and triggers the auto ability to play a category 13 forward from your hand onto the field, dull, forming a party with Lightning and attacking, how does this resolve if Lightning is removed from the field while this ability is on the stack? Does the forward still enter dull and attacking? If it does enter, even with Lightning no longer on the field, what happens if Lightning was making an attack as part of a party and is removed while the ability is on the stack? Does the forward still enter dull and form a party with the remaining attacking forward because it must enter as attacking? Does it enter dull but not attacking because it cannot form a party with Lightning? Whole lot of questions going on here. It's detailed and rightfully so, because there's just a lot of questions that have come up with Lightning ever since she was spoiled. The questions here branch off into 2 different possibilities. We're doing alternate realities. The first one is what happens if it does not play the forward, right? Actually, no. So let me read this one more time. Make sure I get this right, because yeah. So in either scenario, they're asking about Lightning being removed from the field. So our 2 different scenarios is Lightning's been removed before her ability resolves, right? Ability's on the stack. Lightning gets removed. And the first one here is about what happens if she was like by herself, right? Not partied. And the other one is like, what if she was partied with something else at the same time? And would those resolve differently? Like, does it require, since it's forming a party with Lightning, does it require there to be a party or not, right? But let's talk about the first half of this. The first half is really the important part. It says, how does it resolve if Lightning's removed from the field while this ability is on the stack? Does the forward still enter dull and attacking? And the answer is that if Lightning is removed before the auto ability resolves, that the forward that you would play, or basically resolving the auto ability, it can't play a forward. And the reason why is because the wording on it, it says that the effect itself is play a category 13 forward of cost 6 or less, dull, forming a party with, so this is kind of all linked together, dull, forming a party with Lightning and attacking. So it's not possible, if Lightning is gone, to form a party with her. And so it means you can't carry out like the action. The action is not just play her to the field, or in this case, if it's Serah, it's play her, right? But the action is not just to play a 13 character forward. Sorry. Whew. My language today. I gotta be careful with my phrasing on things. It's not just playing a 13 forward to the field. It's playing it to the field dull. It's playing it to the field forming a party with Lightning. It's playing it on the field attacking, right? Those 3 things. And so if Lightning's gone, we can't carry that out. We can't play it forming a party with Lightning because Lightning is no longer there. So in that scenario, it doesn't work. Now in the other scenario where we're asking about, wait, what if she's already in a party? Can we just play it forming a party with the people that Lightning was partied with? The answer there is also no. And the reason it's no is because, again, the wording says to play the forward forming a party with Lightning. And if Lightning's not there, it's not possible to form it with Lightning. Like, the game doesn't care that she was partied with these other people and then like there's still a party going on, presuming that there was at least 2 of them other than Lightning. Doesn't matter. The game says you cannot form a party with Lightning, which means you cannot play this forward onto the field. So that's one of the counterplays essentially for Lightning, is if you don't have like an Amaterasu you're planning on using, if you just have a way of removing the Lightning in general, then if you remove it, then they're not going to be able to play a forward onto the field when it resolves. So yeah, if you're playing against Lightning, then there's a little hint for you on more interaction that you can get on your side. And if you're playing as the Lightning player, then now you know something else to watch out for, or just to be aware of how it resolves. So, oh my goodness, we're still talking about Lightning. Lots of Lightning. We got a 3 for today. Three 3 lightning questions so far, at least. Is the rest of this lightning? We'll find out. If lightning Opus 19 enters the field during combat on the turn that lightning Opus 26 successfully attacked and triggered its ability, how many category 13 forwards will be considered for Opus 19 lightning's ability? Before I read the rest of this, that first half, it really does read like a high school math question, doesn't it? Right? This is like trains leaving at different times and what time will they get there. Like it just, the phrasing on this just seems like our FFTCG math book. This is definitely on the quiz. This card notably does not say have attacked, but instead says were attacking. Assume that Opus 26 lightning died to an X burst, and then Opus 19 entered due to Phoenix from Opus 3. Thank you. So lightning starting to gain notoriety for having stupidly complicated abilities, because this light lightning that we have as well, we're still getting questions about her 7 sets later, and she's had a ton of questions about her since she was first revealed as well. We've just gone over lightning in the last 2 questions, so I'm not going to reiterate that, but just for the purpose of refreshing what light lightning does, it says when one or more category 13 forwards you control attack, all the forwards you control gain plus 1,000 power till the end of the turn. If 2 or more category 13 forwards were attacking this turn, also draw 1 card. If 3 or more category 13 forwards were attacking this turn, lightning also deals your opponent 1 point of damage. So we have weird wording here. This is part of our weird FFTCG vocabulary, which is that they have the phrase were attacking. I don't like it. I mean, I kind of get why they use it, because if they said had attacked or have attacked, then you get into well, what does it count to have attacked? Does that mean that you declared an attack? Maybe you didn't finish it. Maybe something happened. Is it only attack if you actually get the damage resolution? Does it matter if you actually dealt damage? All sorts of weird questions. So the phrase were attacking basically means that if at some point they were attacking, not even necessarily declared an attack, as we've learned from this new Opus 26 Lightning, if at some point they were in the state of attacking, that means that they were attacking, which means that they count for light lightning for the purpose of these self-replacement effects that are adding additional things. So the question here, they're saying, what if I had the Opus 26 Lightning, I played her, I attacked with her, I resolved her auto ability, we played another 13 forward, let's say it's that Serah from the previous question. So lightning was attacking, Serah came in, she's attacking, we hit an X burst, the X burst breaks lightning, and then during that same attack phase, they cast Phoenix to play the light lightning from the break zone onto the field. And of course, because she has haste, she can attack right away, and Phoenix plays her to the field active, so she can just get right in. So the question is, when lightning attacks, triggers her auto ability, because her trigger event is when 1 or more category 13 forwards you control attack. The question is, what happens, right? Because there's a different effect if it's the first time the 13 forwards attacking versus if 2 or more were attacking this turn versus if 3 or more were attacking this turn. This is one of those questions that got asked pretty early on when the Opus 26 Lightning got spoiled, and the answer there that they gave is that it counts both. I mean, the Opus 26 Lightning, obviously she was attacking, but even the one that comes in off of her effect, the Serah in this case, it counts as a forward that was attacking, or one of the ones that were attacking, for using the exact phrasing there. So yes, indeed, if lightning attacks, plays Serah, they're both attacking, lightning leaves the field, same turn, we play Phoenix, we play this light lightning to the field. At that point, before lightning attacks, we have 2 13 forwards that were attacking, and then when this lightning attacks, whoosh, she's our third one. So she's the third category 13 forward that was attacking / were attacking that turn. And yes, you would get everything all the way up through and including the point of damage. All right. Now, that does conclude our lightning portion of the day. But that doesn't mean you know what time it is. You know what time it is? Of course you do. Did you think that I forgot? Do you think I didn't know what time it was? After 3 lightning questions in a row, you think that I didn't know that it was shameless plug time? It's absolutely shameless plug time. Why is it shameless plug time? Oh, you must be new here if you don't know why it's shameless plug time. Because the reason is I did a whole video about lightning. Yes, I did. Did a whole video, like, I don't know, 30 minutes or something, talking about that lightning and all the weirdness of her weird, wacky, unique new ability. And things similar to that last question we just had with the light lightning. In fact, maybe I had that exact question. I can't remember. It's been a little while since I recorded it. But if you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. You'll get all sorts of more lightning content if the 3 questions we just did in a row were not enough for you. And if you have already watched it, you can still watch it again because she's still weird. Yeah. Admittedly, there was less of her in Portland than I was expecting, but I have a feeling she's still going to pop up this season in some way. People are going to try her out at least. So yeah, go watch the video. Go like it. Go subscribe to me if you haven't. And then like this video. Or do it in any order of liking, subscribing, and liking, and then finishing this video. And just, you do you on kind of how you want to arrange things, how you want to do the little a la carte there. But yeah, check it out. Shameless plug. All right, moving on. How would an ongoing cost reduction like Elena's ability, presuming there was at least one other job member of the Turks on the field, of course, interact with Cait Sith's you may play one character of cost 2 or less from your hand ability? Does Elena's cost reduction, or a similar ability for that matter, only come into effect in the act of playing her, meaning that she's technically cost 4 as long as she's in hand, and therefore ineligible for Cait Sith? All right, we get to have a whole little conversation now about the definition of cost and CP to cast and a couple different phrases here. Because Elena's effect, so her field ability, says the cost required to cast Elena is reduced by 2 for each job member of the Turks you control. The rest of her doesn't matter for this. The cost required to cast Elena is reduced by 2 for each job member of the Turks you control. And this doesn't have that little clause that so many cards have that say this, it cannot become 0. So since she's normally a 4 CP forward, if you control 1 member of the Turks, then she's going to cost 2. And if you control 2 members of the Turks, she's 0 now. Cait Sith has an auto ability. It says when Cait Sith enters the field, you may play one character of cost 2 or less from your hand onto the field. So they're saying, all right, I control at least 1 job member of the Turks. I guess, let's say 1, because if it was 2, they could just play Elena for free and they don't need Cait Sith to do that for them. So let's say we have 1 Turk on the field. They want to play Cait Sith and see if they can play Elena off of Cait Sith because the cost to cast Elena is 2 now, and Cait Sith says it plays a character of cost 2 or less from your hand onto the field. This is one of those cases, again, where it's cute, and I like the idea. I like your moxie, as it were, but it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because we have some interesting definitions in this game of how we talk about cost and what the cost is and the CP cost for things. And so there's going to be 3 bits of vocabulary here that we talk about. 2 of them are on the cards that we have in front of us. So Elena, notice that she specifically says the cost required to cast. All right, that's our first bit of vocabulary. Cost required to cast. Cait Sith says a character of cost 2. All right, so there we have the phrase cost 2. So we have first bit, cost required to cast. And the other one is cost X. In this case, it's 2. The third one, not on either of these, is we have some cards that will say the CP cost to cast. Ooh, very similar to Elena's phrasing, but very much not exactly the same and not the same definition. So we have the cost to cast, the CP cost to cast. I want to say it's what it says there, or the CP required to cast. And then we have cost X. All right, what do all these things mean? Why are they different? And what does that mean for this question? So when we're talking about the cost of a card, like Cait Sith's effect that says cost 2, right? Character of cost 2. We are talking about the printed number on the card. We are always 100% of the time talking about the printed number on the card. So what that means is, even if there's other effects that are making something cost less when you are casting it, the CP cost of a card is always the same, right? The cost does not change. Elena, 130% of the time, is going to be a forward that costs 4 for the purpose of effects, especially ones that say like this, where it's like the character of cost X, right? She's always going to be a character of cost 4. So she can be played off of Kirin, for example, even if you controlled other Turks. So cost, we're always talking about the printed number in the top left there. How is that different from, that was the cost required to cast. Oh, sorry. I'm confusing myself here. So cost X, we're talking about the printed cost. All right. How is that different from the cost required to cast? Okay. The cost required to cast is something that gets calculated at the point in time where you are casting the card. So when you declare, I'm casting Elena, she is a 4 CP card. However, before you pay, the game goes through the calculations of all the things that are affecting her cost. And then it spits out what the final number is, and that's how much you have to pay. So the cost required to cast Elena, it might be 4. It might be less than 4. It might be more than 4. How could it be more than 4? Because of Dark Ultimecia. You forgot about Dark Ultimecia, didn't you? Dark Ultimecia makes it so that all non-summons, I want to say it is, to cast, the cost goes up by 1. So it could be more than 4, the cost to cast her. It could be less than 4. But the cost required to cast her is not equal to her cost. That's super intuitive, isn't it? Right? The cost required to cast Elena is not equal to her cost. Her cost stays the same. Her cost is 4. But the cost required to cast her might be something different. It might be 0. It might be 2. It might be 4. It might be 5. Could be something else, but I can't think of other effects other than Ultimecia that increase cost. So that's cost required to cast. Now, the third bit of vocabulary I mentioned is some effects will say CP required to cast. Okay, so why do we have that? What's the difference between CP required to cast and cost required to cast? There are effects that mention the CP required to cast because they usually are some sort of variable that has like a multiplier based off of the CP required to cast. You see it a lot with summons. There's the Tele backup that it removes a summon from the break zone, does something with a summon, and it deals 3,000 damage to a forward for each CP required to cast that summon. So they use CP required to cast kind of interchangeably with cost, but depending on like the grammar of the card and the effect, sometimes one of those makes more sense to say than the other. So like they wouldn't say when Cait Sith enters the field, you may play one character with the CP required to cast of 2 or less, right? That's like clunky, which isn't to say we don't get clunky stuff, but they recognize there it would be less clunky to just say of cost 2. Similarly with that Tele, they wouldn't say like, it deals 3,000 damage for each cost required, or 3,000 damage for each cost of the summon or something like that would also just be super wonky. But essentially, cost X and CP required to cast, those are interchangeable in terms of that they both just mean what's the printed number in the top left of the card. And that is separate from the cost required to cast, which is something that gets calculated when you're casting it to the field. And just all it determines is how much you're paying. It doesn't change anything about Elena. It just says how much are you paying to cast her to the field. So long explanation, but worth going over because we have again three bits of vocab here that are very similar, especially cost required to cast and CP required to cast. Those things seem like they would be interchangeable, but they're very much not interchangeable. So I think I've basically answered the question here, but just to recap before I move on, Elena is never going to be able to be played off of Cait Sith's effect because Elena is always going to be a 4 CP forward, and Cait Sith only ever plays anything that's cost 2 or less. So they are not a match made in heaven or a match made in gold saucer, I guess. But yeah, there's some little primer on cost, and again, cost X versus cost required to cast versus CP required to cast. Hopefully I said that all correctly during that explanation there, because it's easy for myself to get mixed around there. All right. Hi, I was looking for some clarification on the breakdown on the Onion Knight field ability. How I understand it is that you must have at least 4 backups, with each one at least having a different element from other backups. So having a fire, wind, water, and earth backup would trigger this, but it would fail in case of having Opus 1 Shantoto and 3 water backups, as while there are plenty of elements in total, they are not unique among the backups. Is this correct? Additionally, if I have 5 backups, let's say fire, wind, water, earth, does the effect still trigger since there is at least 4 unique elements from 4 different cards, or does it deactivate because I have a duplicate element at all? Thanks for the help. That was so wordy I didn't have a chance to fit the Onion Knight on there, so you're probably wondering what the heck all that means. Or what, like, why this is so complicated. What is Onion Knight doing? What are we even doing here? So let's look at Onion Knight. Hi, Onion Knight. There's actually 4 different Onion Knights like this. Surprise, surprise, if you've played Final Fantasy 3. But we have one in each of the normal Warrior of Light colors, elements rather. Fire, wind, earth, and water. It's exactly the same card in each of those elements with exactly the same text, just a different element to it and a different character, right? You know, Arc, Lunith, Refia, and Ingus. So all of them have the field ability here that says if you control 4 or more backups, and if the backups you control are all of different elements, Onion Knight 3 gains plus 6,000 power. So this is for being a cycle of common cards that haven't really seen much play even when they came out. This is quite the complex little ability. They even got an FAQ entry, I believe, because of that. And so the scenarios that the person who asked the question gave pointed out that if you have, for example, a fire, earth, water, and wind backup, you have exactly 4 backups, and one is fire, one's water, one's wind, one's earth, that will cause this to be in effect. They said trigger, and I'm going to just kind of point out we don't want to use that terminology, trigger, there, because this is a field ability, and so it doesn't use the stack, and it will never use the stack. Field abilities that have requirements of some kind are literally constantly checking, and the split second that the requirements are met, you apply whatever is on there, and the split second that they are not met, you stop applying whatever it is. So in this case, there's 2 requirements. One is that you have to control 4 or more backups, but the other part of the requirement is if the backups you control are all of different elements. So yeah, if you have 4 backups, they're all of a different element, like that first scenario, great. It's in effect, and now Onion Knight has 8,000 power. The second example they gave was, what if I have 3 water backups and Opus 1 Shantoto? So I have 4 backups, and among them I have 4 or more different elements. Does that count? That does not count, because it says if the backups you control are all of different elements. And in that scenario, all 4 of them are water, even Shantoto, right? Because she's got all the elements except for light and dark. Or maybe it's just instead of dark. I think it's both. It's light and dark. It'd be messed up if you couldn't play a light card because you had Shantoto. But she's got the 6. So so they're all the same, which means you have definitely more than one backup that is of the same element or is not of different elements. And so because of that, it would not count. And the other example that was given was if we had 5 backups and it was like fire, wind, water, earth. And in that case, again, we don't apply this field ability because you do meet the requirement of 4 more backups, but they are not all of different elements because 2 of them are fire. So you have 2 of them that are not of different elements from each other. So in that scenario, having that second fire backup actually ruins the whole ability here. So there's a cute little meme deck where you do the whole 4 different elements here, and then now you can have, because these are multi-play cards and they're in each of the 4 elements, you can suddenly have 12 cards in your deck, 12 forwards that are 1 CP, 8K, and do nothing else. if you've jumped through the hoops. Again, it's cute. It's a meme deck, but it's cute. But yeah, the ways to ruin it is Shantoto ruins it 100% of the time. More than one of the same element backup ruins it 100% of the time. So yeah, if you want to have fun with this, have fun with it. But you have to make sure that you stay within those parameters. All right, that leads us to our final question. I'm wanting to confirm that I have the correct understanding of how these cards interact and make sure there isn't a limit that I'm not aware of. Say you prime into Odin 16 from Barnabas 16 and play Behemoth and then move into the attack phase. You attack, Behemoth breaks and gives Odin deals 2 damage instead, and Odin activates. You deal your 2 damage, assuming no blockers. You then repeat the attack and deal another 2 damage. Use the special on him to be able to attack again. Attack again for another 2 damage. Use the special again and attack for another 2 damage. As long as you have Barnabas Odin cards to pitch for his special, you can attack as many times as you want? ? Again, this is got into like some pretty complex FFTCG math here. For those of you who don't have memorized what Barnabas and Odin do, or at least what Odin does and what this Behemoth does, let's look at them. So, Odin has the auto ability. It says when Barnabas primes into Odin, Odin gains when Odin attacks, activate Odin, and Odin can attack twice in the same turn. This effect does not end at the end of the turn, and he has a special ability, Iron Flash. It says activate Odin. Odin can attack once more this turn. So before I get into what Behemoth does, when Barnabas primes into Odin, gains that ability, it means it's just kind of the base level of what Odin is doing. His Odin shenanigans is when he attacks, he will activate himself, and he can attack twice. So that's just the base level primed Odin, is that he every time he attacks, he activates himself, and he can attack twice. So when he attacks the second time, for example, he will activate himself, and he's not able to attack a third time, but he just, ends up being active again. So he's got like fake brave, right? I mean, it's an auto ability and it could be interrupted and all that stuff, but it kind of ends up being, if it doesn't get interrupted in some way or interfered with, then it's like fake brave. So you can attack twice. And then if you have copies of the special to use, then that will activate him again, which doesn't matter. If he was already active, then great, you just activate him again. It says Odin can attack once more this turn. So for example, you have Barnabas, you prime into Odin, he does his thing. You attack with Odin, reactivates himself, you dealt 1 damage. You attack with Odin again, reactivates himself, you dealt 2 damage. You use the Iron Flash special once, activates him. He attacks a third time. His auto reactivates himself, deals a 3rd point of damage. And then you discard another special because your hand is just swimming with dark cards right now. And then after the second special, he attacks a 4th time, reactivates himself, and deals a 4th point of damage. So that's an example where he can attack 4 times in a turn. Now, Behemoth has 2 auto abilities. Behemoth, the first one is when 1 or more forwards you control attack, you may put Behemoth into the break zone. So whenever you attack, you can just chuck the Behemoth right to the break zone. The second one is when Behemoth is put from the field into the break zone, choose 1 forward you control. Until the end of the turn, it gains this ability, which is if this forward deals damage to your opponent other than by its ability, the damage becomes 2 instead. As a side note, when it says other than by its ability, that means if it's dealing damage by doing battle damage or, from the attack phase. If it was something like the Serah from earlier, it would not double the damage dealt by her ability. So that's what they're talking about when they mean ability damage. Before anybody goes, oh, well, this Odin, his ability keeps letting him attack again, so that means it doesn't affect it, right? No, it still affects it. So when Behemoth goes to the break zone, you can absolutely choose Odin, apply it to Odin, and now for the rest of the turn, whenever he deals damage by attacking, he's going to deal 2. So that scenario I described earlier where he attacked once, and then he attacked twice, and then we specialed, and he attacked a 3rd time, and then we did a special again, and we attacked a 4th time. Well, imagine each one of those times that he's attacking, he's not doing 1 damage, like my first example. Now we have a replacement effect, and it's dealing 2 damage. So now we've reached the point where Odin can just strike you down in one turn, right? So those are 4 attacks, but now it's 2 damage. So now he hits you the first time, bam, bam, reactivates. Attacks you a second time, bam, bam, 4 damage. Use the Iron Flash special. Whoop, here we come in for the third one. Attack, bam, bam, we're up to 6 damage. Iron Flash special again, whoop, we've activated. Attack again, reactivate, and now 7, 8. We have wrecked our opponent, presuming that the opponent did not have any interaction at all. Nothing they could do with the Behemoth, nothing they could do with the Odin. Then, yeah, you now have 4 attacks by Odin in the same turn, where he is dealing 2 damage each time, and he just takes your opponent's lunch money, I guess. And that's how that all works. That was the final question. So, hopefully you did well. Hopefully you got your 10 out of 10 there. And if not, that's all right. We're learning. And if you're learning, that's also good. That's what I'm here for, teaching, right? Here for teaching, and I hope that you're here for learning and all that good stuff. Yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for being along this far into the video. If you haven't already, slap that like button down there, or just gently tap it, activate it, dull it. I don't know. Dull the like button. You can similarly dull the subscribe button. Just be like Odin, right? Odin just wants to keep dulling himself, and then just keeps reactivating, keeps on dulling again. Just keep doing it. So yeah, subscribe to me if you haven't already, because I'm a lot of fun, or something. You can find me here on YouTube, where I'm already at and you're already at. But yeah, YouTube, I am at Judge Jared. So youtube.com/@JudgeJared. On Facebook, you can find my my page there, where I am facebook.com/Judge Jared as well. You can like me there too. Do it again. Bam, dull that like button. On Twitter, I am at Judge Jared FFTCG. You can follow me there. There's another button for you to click. And just see, you can see the times where I ask Square Enix what the heck is going on, if you follow me on Twitter. And then lastly, on Discord, my username is Judge Jared, and my DMs are open, so you can ask me questions or just say hi or what have you. But yeah, so you can reach me on Discord. So those are the 4 different places to see me there. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for this week. But again, thanks for watching. And I am Judge Jared. And until next time, court is adjourned.